Matthew Perry was vulnerable despite his money and celebrity. This was a man who had battled for decades with substance abuse. And yeah, here were people who were supposed to be helping him, two doctors who were supposed to be helping him, yet referring to him as a moron in text messages and discussing how much money they could make from him.
Now, 5 people have been arrested in connection with Matthew Perry, the Friends actor, his fatal overdose. Among those 5 includes his personal assistant, 2 doctors, and an alleged dealer known as the Ketamine Queen. A post-mortem examination found the cause of his death was the acute effects of ketamine, a controlled drug which the recovering addict was taking as part of supervised therapy. Well, the US Attorney, Martin Estrada, gave a press conference in Los Angeles this evening.
The investigation revealed that in the fall of 2023, Mr. Perry fell back into addiction, and these defendants took advantage to profit for themselves. Over 2 months, from September to October 2023, they distributed approximately 20 vials of ketamine to Mr. Perry in exchange for $55,000 in cash. Defendant Placentia saw this as an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry. He wrote in a text message in September 2023, quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay." We have filed numerous federal charges against the 5 defendants. These charges include conspiracy to distribute ketamine, distribution of ketamine resulting in death, maintaining drug-involved premises for that drug-selling emporium the defendant Sonia had, altering and falsifying records related to a federal investigation for those false medical notes and records that defendant Placentia made, and multiple other drug trafficking counts.
Listening to that in LA is the Times reporter, Kieren Southern, who covers the West Coast for the Times, who's been at the press conference. Kieran, I mean, just extraordinary some of the detail that we're getting here. The chief allegation here seems to be that once Matthew Perry had made clear to the doctors his addiction, they took advantage of it.
Yeah, huge development in one of the biggest celebrity death stories of recent years. What came out in the criminal indictment that's been filed in federal court is that Matthew Perry, who has had a well-documented battle with substance abuse issues for many, many years, he was seeking treatment for depression and anxiety and was taking intravenous ketamine. He then got addicted to intravenous ketamine, and he tried to get his dosage upped, but the clinic where he was getting it, having the therapy, the doctors refused. So then that's when he allegedly went to the 2 doctors named in this indictment, who are Mark Chavez and Salvador Palencia. They are then alleged to have taken advantage of Matthew Perry. I mean, some of the details in the indictment are really eye-catching. The sums involved in from September to October last year, they're alleged to have supplied Matthew Perry 20 vials of ketamine for $55,000 in cash. Placentia is said to have wanted to become Perry's go-to drug dealer, and in a text message said to someone else, "I wonder how much this moron would pay for those drugs." They're also alleged to have charged Matthew Perry $2,000 for a vial of ketamine that they obtained for $12.
And what they're saying in the timeline is then Matthew Perry then tried to obtain ketamine for less money. So that's how he ended up then going to street dealers, and that was via his assistant.
Yeah, and that's where this so-called ketamine queen comes into it. Police raided her home. Yasmin Sanger, her name is. They raided her home in North Hollywood earlier this year and allegedly found a drug-selling emporium, 80 vials of ketamine, thousands of pills containing methamphetamine, cocaine, bottles of Xanax, and other legally obtained prescription drugs. It's alleged that she is actually the person who sold Matthew Perry the drugs that killed him.
Apparently, what we've heard in the conference is that after the death was reported in the news, one of the street dealers texted the other, "Delete all our messages." So it suggests, clearly they realised we've done something wrong here.
Yeah, that was the alleged ketamine queen, and then the doctor involved, Placentia. He's alleged to have then went back and deleted or fiddled with records to make what he was doing look legal. 3 of those who it was announced have been charged today have already admitted guilt to some degree, but the 2 lead defendants in this case, which are Sanger and Placentia, they are due to be arraigned in downtown Los Angeles today. Now, Placentia, he's facing 120 years in prison, while Sanger is facing life behind bars.
Wow. Did we know that this sort of investigation was going on?
We knew in May, the LAPD announced that Matthew Perry's death was at the center of a criminal investigation, which involved the Drug Enforcement Administration and the US Postal Service. There'd been some leaks in the media that multiple people were facing potential charges, but to see the scale of that investigation revealed today has been quite something. And I think, it was one of the most notable celebrity deaths in recent years. Matthew Perry, beloved star of one of the most popular sitcoms of all time. But there is a tragedy at the center of this case, that with all his money and fame and everything else, he just couldn't beat that addiction that he's facing since he was a teenager.
And the allegation is that he was preyed upon. I mean, Kieran, it's kind of unusual in a criminal case like this for us to hear details like this. How different is it in the States? Because, we wouldn't be having this conversation if it happened in the UK.
No, it's a very different system out here. It's much more open. There are no contempt of court laws, for example. So despite the 2 lead defendants here, they've not yet been arraigned as of lunchtime, my time now. And yeah, it's a much freer system. So we're allowed to view the indictments. You can have the US Attorney for Los Angeles come out and give this press conference and deliver really extraordinary detail that we just wouldn't expect to see in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, the timeline of effectively what they think happened and all the people, the chief instigators of it. What has the reaction been? Because this death was, shocking. We were talking about it here on Times Radio for days. So many people grew up with friends, and we had the heartwarming tributes from his fellow co-stars on the show. There must be, as well as this feeling of sort of great loss and tragedy, real anger.
Yeah, I think what one of the most interesting things about this indictment is that it lays bare this extensive underground criminal network of these drug dealers who, and remarkably, 2 doctors involved who really abused their position to get drugs into very vulnerable people. One of the Drug Enforcement Administration agents at the press conference today made the point that, Matthew Perry was vulnerable despite his money and celebrity. This was a man who had battled for decades with substance abuse. And yeah, here were people who were supposed to be helping him, 2 doctors who were supposed to be helping him, yet referring to him as a moron in text messages and discussing how much money they could make from him.
Yeah, and the fact that his fame and his bank balance made him sort of someone they could prey upon. Thank you so much, Kieran, for the update. The Times reporter based in LA who's been at that press conference. The questions this raises about the drug market in the States, the conduct of those doctors is just, all of this will have to be pored over. Kieran, thank you so much.